am Professor Shwinder Kaur Popli, Professor in the Department of Social Work, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Today's session is about social reformers of India during and post independence. In today's session, we will look at some of the key individuals who dedicated their lives to addressing deep rooted social issues in Indian society. These reformers, working before and after independence, not only led transformative movements but also laid the foundation for many of the values and practices that guide professional social work today. Their vision, courage, and commitment to justice continue to inspire social change and nation building efforts across generations. First of all, I would like to talk about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, a visionary leader, jurist, economist, and social reformer, is widely celebrated as the principal architect of the Indian Constitution. Born into a marginalized Dalit family, he experienced the harsh realities of caste-based discrimination firsthand. These early experiences deeply shaped his lifelong mission to fight for the dignity, equality, and rights of scheduled castes and other oppressed groups in India. Ambedkar's work exemplifies several core methods of social work, particularly community organization and social action. He actively mobilized the masses through education, legal reform, and peaceful protest, empowering the depressed classes to assert their rights. One of his notable efforts was the temple entry movement in Nasik, which challenged the religious and social exclusion of Dalits from Hindu temples, an act of non-violent resistance aimed at dismantling the deeply entrenched caste system. Dr. Ambedkar's contribution to right-based social work is immense. As a chairman of the Constitution Drafting Committee, he ensured the inclusion of key provisions related to equality, non-discrimination, social justice, and affirmative action, that is, reservations. These constitutional safeguards continue to serve as foundational tools for social workers and activists advocating for marginalized communities in India. His life and work remains a powerful source of inspiration for social workers, highlighting the transformative potential of combating grassroots mobilization, legal empowerment, and policy advocacy to bring about structural change. The other reformer that I would like to talk about is Mahatma Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, revered as father of nation, was not only a key figure in India's struggle for free independence, but also a profound social reformer whose principles and actions continue to shape the philosophy and practice of social work in India. Gandhi transformed the Indian freedom movement, which actually was considered as elite-driven political initiative, into a mass-based movement. He travelled across through rail, through walks, and actively involved peasants, workers, women, and marginalized communities. In doing so, he laid the foundation for participatory and inclusive approaches central to community work. His philosophy of ahimsa, that is, non-violence, satyagraha, truth force or non-violent resistance, and swadeshi, self-reliance, was not just a strategy for political liberation, but a tool for deep social change. Gandhi challenged untouchability and caste discrimination, referring to Dalits as Harijan, Hari Ke Jan, that is, children of God, and worked towards their upliftment through education, manual labor, and community integration. He also emphasized the dignity of labor, sanitation, women's empowerment, and rural reconstruction. Through his promotion of Gram Swaraj, a model of democratic decentralization that placed villages at the heart of national development. Gandhi's work strongly resonates with social work methods like community organization, social action, and advocacy. His belief in simple living, ethical service, and self sufficiency aligns with the value based framework of professional social work. His legacy continues to inspire social workers to promote social justice, human dignity, and empowerment of the marginalized, especially in rural and underprivileged areas of India. The other reformer I would like to mention is Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Iron Man of India, as he was often referred to. He is best known for his role in integrating over 560 princely states into the Indian Union, whereby securing the political unity of modern India. However, his early political life and sustained engagement with rural India reveal his deep commitment to grassroots empowerment, making his contributions highly relevant from a social work perspective. Patel's leadership during the Kheda Satyagraha, that is in 1918, and the Bardoli Satyagraha, that was in 1928, showcased his remarkable ability to organize rural communities. He was a man of rural communities, especially the oppressed peasants, to resist unjust colonial policies such as increased land revenue during periods of drought and crop failure. Through non-violent resistance and mass mobilization, he empowered marginalized communities to demand justice, fostering self-reliance, dignity and participatory decision making, all central to modern community organization and social work. He used to meet marginalized people, motivate them, and help them to understand their power, demand justice, and have participatory decision making. Patel's pragmatic leadership, strong sense of justice, and respect for community strength align with the key social work principles such as client participation, social justice, and the dignity and worth of individuals. His ability to negotiate, mediate, and build consensus during the political integration process also reflects skills used in macro social work practice, particularly in areas such as policy advocacy, administrative coordination, and conflict resolution. Way back, years ago, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel expressed or showed his abilities regarding these. Moreover, Patel consistently emphasized local leadership, volunteerism, and collective action. He believed in leadership that was local, participation of people at the local level, and establishing a model for rural development that continues to influence social work approaches today. His focus on strengthening institutions at the village level, such as cooperatives and local panchayats, laid the foundation for community based governance and empowerment, the key themes in development of social work. The next reformer I would like to talk about is Thakkar Bappa. Thakkar Bappa, born as Amrit Lal Vithaldas Thakkar, was a visionary reformer and social worker whose life was devoted to the upliftment of India's most marginalized communities, especially the scheduled tribes and scheduled castes. Leaving behind a successful career in civil engineering, he was a civil engineer by profession. He immersed himself in constructive social work, deeply influenced by the ideals of Mahatma Gandhi. He used to idolize Mahatma Gandhi and he was deeply influenced by his ideals. Thakkar Bappa believed that true national development could not be achieved without the empowerment of those at the fringes of society. That is, he felt that true national development will take only place when the people at the fringe of society are empowered. His work was grounded in Gandhian principles of simplicity, service, and social justice, and he became a central figure in the Harijan Sevak Sangh, taking the message of dignity, equality, and education for the remotest tribal regions. As he was a follower, or as he was a person impressed with Gandhian principles, he became central figure Harijan Sevak Sangh, because he brought the message of dignity, equality, and education to the remotest tribal regions. Recognizing the stark neglect faced by tribal communities, he felt that tribals were very neglected. Thus, he emphasized education as a mean of liberation. He felt that education is the only way where people can get liberated. Setting up schools and hostels and encouraging the use of mother tongue in early education to foster self-confidence among tribal women. Now in present times, we are trying, our government is trying, our Prime Minister is trying to bring about that local mother tongue should be there for a person to gain self-confidence. Way back, Thakkar Baba also encouraged the use of mother tongue in early education. He also promoted economic empowerment through cooperative movements, self-reliance initiatives, and skill training programs. Yes, economic empowerment is very important for any person to have self-confidence. Thus, he promoted economic empowerment. He felt that self-reliant initiatives and skill training programs were required for economic empowerment. His establishment of the Gond Seva Sangh, that is now Vanvasi Seva Mandal, was a landmark effort that created platforms for organized tribal welfare, combining community development with grassroots activism. He was all for tribal welfare. He was working for tribal welfare. He felt that the combination of community development along with the tribal welfare at the grassroots activism can bring about empowerment. Thakkar Bappa lived in tribal areas, earning trust and building bonds with the people he served. His approach echoed and social work methods of residence, relationship building, and community organization. In his role as an educator, motivator, and organizer, Thakkar Bappa addressed intersecting issues of caste, class, and geographic isolation. Long before such frameworks became common in academic social work discourse, way back, Thakkar Baba had talked about caste, class, geographic isolation, and the intersecting issues of caste. When he was playing the role of educator, motivator, or organizer, way back before we had it in academic social work discourse. His inclusive approach recognized the cultural identity. Cultural identity of tribal communities was something which he felt was very important. Seeking not to assimilate them, but to empower them on their own terms. It is basically that they should be what they are and remain the way they are. It's only to empower them to be on their own terms. He worked towards institutional reforms, campaigned for better representation of tribal voices in policy decisions, and advocated for legislative protections. He worked towards the representation of tribal voices. The tribals were not recognized, they were not participant, they were not having any kind of contribution to the decisions, in the legislative decisions or any other kind of decisions. His legacy lives on in the India's tribal development policies, and he is considered one of the foundational figures in rural and tribal social work. Working for tribals, working for rurals, he is considered as the central foundational figures in development of social work with rural and tribal population. Thakkar Bappa's contribution underscores a holistic model of social work, one that integrates education, advocacy, service, delivery, and reform. Social work model holistically has, or it talks about education, it should have advocacy, it should have service delivery, and there should be some kind of social reform. And Thakkar Bappa's contribution is towards holistic model of social work. His life and work continues to inspire generations of social workers committed to working at the grassroots levels, making him a trailblazer in right-based, participatory and community-centric social work in India. So, his work still continues to inspire the younger generation, younger professional social workers who are committed to working at the grassroots level. Other social reformer who comes to my mind is Vinoba Bhave. Vinoba Bhave was a renowned spiritual leader, philosopher and social reformer deeply influenced by Mahatma Gandhi's ideals for non-violence, truth and social justice. Invariably, Vinoba Bhave is commonly known to people as a person associated with Bhudan and Gramdan movement. Vinoba Bhave was a follower, was deeply influenced by Mahatma Gandhi's ideals. He was also a preacher, a follower of non-violence, truth and social justice. He dedicated his life to the work of downtrodden. A dedicated follower of Gandhian philosophy, Bhave played a crucial role in shaping a non-violent and people-centric approach in social transformation in post-independent India. His most remarkable contribution to social work and grassroots empowerment was the initiation of the Bhudan movement in 1951. That is a gifting the land, a voluntary land gift movement that urged wealthy landowners to donate a portion of their land to landless farmers. What made Vinoba Bhave's approach unique was the way he combined spiritual morality with social activism. Through personal interactions, moral persuasions and empathy, he inspired thousands of landowners to part with their property not through force or legal compulsion but through voluntarily goodwill, thus echoing the social work principles of self-determination, empowerment and participation. He did not force anyone to give their lands. He also encouraged them to give the land which is barren, which is useless to them, which they have not used for many years. Whatever kind of land, there was no force used or there was no legal compulsion. It was only through his goodwill, by talking to people, interacting with people, he was able to persuade them morally to give voluntary donation of land. He undertook padyatras, that is foot journeys across the country, walking over 70,000 kilometers through villages to directly connect with people, listen to their struggles and build a collective consciousness around equity and justice. He went around on foot, meeting people, knowing problems of poor people and relating or narrating them to the landlords or people who could be encouraged to give their lands. His method reflected the casework approach at the micro level, that is addressing the issues of individuals. Like we do it in casework, address the issues of the individuals, his method also reflected the same, and community organizations at the macro level. At the micro level, he was using one-to-one approach, that is the casework, typically the way we work in casework, and community organization at the macro level, that is through mobilizing entire village to take part in equitable land distribution. Vinoba Bhave later expanded this initiative into a Gram Dan movement. Gram Dan movement doesn't mean giving dan of gram or the whole village is given in gift, no. Their entire village collectively agreed to donate land and manage it communally. They would merge their land, work on it collectively and the booty from there would be distributed among people. This approach highlighted alternative model of rural development rooted in local governance, self-sufficiency and non-violent social change. Principles still highly relevant to the field of community development and rural social work. His work represented a fusion of moral philosophy and social practice, showcasing how value driven leadership can bring about profound structural change without formal authority or coercion. It is a very good example of showcasing that value driven leadership can be very, very useful, very fruitful. His work represents the fusion of moral philosophy, where he was motivating people, motivating landlords morally that they should devote or they should dedicate their land for the people who are needy. Bhave's method was deeply participatory, promoting dialogue, mutual respect, and voluntary action as tool of societal reform. So he was using participatory method. He was promoting dialogue. He was talking to them. He was understanding their problems, making them understand the problem, making the rich understand the problems of the poor, making the landlords understand the problems of the landless. His emphasis on Sarvodaya, that is Sarv Ka Uday, which is welfare of all, embodied the highest ideals of social work. The belief that true development must reach the last person of the society. If you make the line of individuals through rich to the poor, then the person last in the line should also be able to benefit from the development. That is called as true development of the society. Vinoba Bhave's legacy is foundational in the evolution of right-based Gandhian and non-institutional models of social work in India. His life exemplified the power of ethical conviction, grassroots engagement, and social mobilization, making him a pioneering figure in promoting social justice through voluntary action and community solidarity. Vinoba Bhave is a big example of person who has worked through voluntary action and community solidarity to promote social justice. Another reformer who worked or who was a pioneer educationist and reformer and thinker was Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, whose efforts significantly influenced the social transformation of Indian Muslims in the 19th century. He worked for the issues of Muslims. Operating in the aftermath of 1857 revolt, at a time when Muslim community was experiencing political marginalization and educational backwardness, Sir Syed recognized that social upliftment could not occur without modern scientific education. Sir Syed felt that the Muslim community was being marginalized, they were educationally backward. So he realized that the only way for upliftment could be through education, and no modern development can take place without scientific education. His work reflects an early model of social work focused on education, community empowerment, and reform within the marginalized groups. Through the Aligarh movement, he sought to reconcile Islamic values with modernity, advocating for rational thought, scientific inquiry, and Western education. He was one of the earlier leaders who reconciled Islamic values with the modern rational thought, scientific inquiry. In 1875, he established the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, which later evolved into Aligarh Muslim University, which is world famed now, a cornerstone institution for modern education among Indian Muslims. This initiative reflected a key social work value, empowerment through education. Sir Syed's belief in knowledge as a means of social change aligns closely with the principles of educational social work, particularly in addressing structural inequalities and access gaps. Sir Syed also worked to reform harmful social customs, especially those affecting Muslim women. He felt that there were social customs in Islam or in Muslims which were affecting women negatively. He voiced concern over the Parda system, polygamy, and the lack of educational opportunities for women, advocating gradual social change while staying rooted in the cultural context of the community. Realizing the cultural context, within the cultural context, he felt that while maintaining cultural values, there can be some changes that can be brought which can help women to develop, like Parda system, polygamy, and the lack of educational opportunities which were not available for women. His writings and speeches aims to raise awareness, shift mindsets, and encourage critical thinking, methods akin to social group work and community education in today's social work practice. Moreover, his approach was inclusive and secular in spirit. He felt that everybody needs to be included, whether it's men or women, and it has to be secular. While committed to the progress of Indian Muslims, he also stressed communal harmony, promoting cooperation between Hindus and Muslims. He was trying to always promote cooperation between Hindus and Muslims because, being committed to the progress of Indian Muslims, he felt that there was need for communal harmony. His social reform work acknowledged the pluralistic nature of Indian society and the need for inter-community dialogue, making his legacy relevant to intercultural and religiously sensitive social work practice. So, Sayyid's efforts laid a strong foundation for community-based social reform, especially within a religious and cultural framework. Maintaining the religious and cultural framework, within the cultural framework, he laid a strong foundation of community-based social reform. By mobilizing intellectuals, educators, and community leaders, he established institutions that not only provided education, but also nurtured leadership and social responsibility. Because he was always insisting or was very conscious that education can be a big tool in bringing about development, he mobilized intellectuals, educators, and community leaders. His life and the mission continue to inspire educational outreach, minority empowerment, and culturally rooted reform, all of which are critical components of professional social work in contemporary India. The next reformer that I would like to talk about is Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore, also known as Thakur, though internationally celebrated as a poet, philosopher, and Nobel laureate, was also a visionary, social reformer, and pioneer of rural reconstruction of India. Generally, we know Rabindranath Tagore as a poet, as a philosopher, and as a Nobel laureate. Let's know that he was also a social reformer and a pioneer of rural reconstruction. Deeply concerned with the condition of rural Bengal, Tagore believed that the true national development could not be achieved without the upliftment of India's villages, where the majority of population lived in poverty, illiteracy, and social stagnation. India lives in villages. That is a statement which we have been hearing for years. And Rabindranath Tagore felt that if you want the upliftment of India, then you cannot ignore villages. Villages where people live in poverty, have illiteracy, and they are socially stagnated. Tagore's model of rural reconstruction was holistic and humanistic. Unlike the top-down approach of rural development often pursued by colonial and later government efforts, he emphasized grassroots participation, self-reliance, and cultural revitalization, which is even deep-rooted in social work. That there should be grassroots participation rather than the top-down approach. If we want to bring development, especially in rural areas, there should be self-reliance, there should be cultural revitalization, and there should be grassroots participation. His initiative in Sriniketan, an extension of the educational institute Shanti Niketan, aimed at transforming villages through education, vocational training, health awareness, sanitation, environmental sustainability, and local self-governance. So, in an extension of the institute which is Shanti Niketan, He initiated Sriniketan, which was aimed at transforming villages. This integrated approach laid the foundation for modern social work methods, including community organization, social education, and participatory development. The key aspect of Tagore's work was empowerment through knowledge and creativity. He believed that education should be rooted in the local context and blend traditional wisdom with modern learning, including agriculture, craft, and the art. He felt that local things were important and education should be rooted and coming from or should be in the local context, because we generally feel that is what now we have in NEP 2020 also, that local is important. One should be indigenous knowledge, local knowledge, traditional wisdom should be integrated with the modern learning. This was an early expression of social work education that respects cultural specificity and fosters self-growth among marginalized populations. Tagore also challenged the passive charity model by encouraging dignified livelihoods and cooperative movements in villages. He challenged that there should not be charity. Charity is not the way of bringing about development. He encouraged that there should be dignified livelihoods and cooperative movements that should be there in the villages. His support for community managed economic systems like rural cooperatives reflected values aligned with contemporary right based and strength based approaches in social work. Importantly, he saw rural people not as beneficiaries of aid but as active agents of change. He felt that they should not be made parasites just by giving some kind of benefits. They should be active agents of change. They should be participating in development. They should be contributing to the development. His critique of bureaucratic interventions and advocacy for decentralized, human-centered development continues to influence rural social work practice in India. Furthermore, his belief in the unity of humanity, dignity of labor, and the role of creativity in human development resonate deeply in the ethical foundations of social work. In summary, we can say that Rabindranath Tagore's contribution to rural reconstruction serve as a culturally rooted participatory model of social work, emphasizing self-reliance, education, dignity, and community agency. His legacy remains vital in shaping social work education, rural practice, and community development initiatives in India and beyond. The next reformer I would talk about is Swami Sahajanand Saraswati. Swami Sahajanand Saraswati was a pioneering social reformer and one of the foremost peasant leaders of 20th century in India, whose work embodies the principles and methods of community organization and social action, which is central to professional social work. Though a sannyasi by lifestyle, his commitment to the rights of marginalized farmers and landless laborers led him to confront the deeply entrenched feudal structures of colonial India. Swami Saraswati was considered to be a sannyasi by style, but he was committed to the rights of marginalized. He was a reformer. He used to fight, or his fight was for peasant leaders. In 1929, he founded the Bihar Provincial Kisan Sabha, which later evolved into the All India Kisan Sabha, marking the shift from scattered local discontent to a national organized agrarian movement. Sahajanand's efforts emphasized collective empowerment, where peasants were encouraged to unite, articulate their grievances, and advocate for their rights through peaceful and democratic means. Having movements at different places, decentralized, was not bringing results. So he emphasized that there should be collective empowerment. They should articulate their grievances and advocate for their rights through peaceful and democratic means. His key demand, abolition of the zamindari system, reflected his insistence on structural change. Rather than mere relief-based approaches, a concept deeply aligned with right-based social work. His key demand was to abolish zamindari system and insisted on structural change that should be brought. His leadership reflected the community organization method of social work as he worked to build solidarity among disenfranchised rural populations, raised political awareness, and challenged exploitative practices. He also focused on mobilizing local resources, building rural consciousness, and encouraging participatory leadership, all of which are foundational principles in social work practice. He also focused on mobilizing local resources, indigenous material. Though he began as a Gandhian, over time his activism took on a more radical tone, especially as he aligned with the socialist and communist ideologies that prioritized land reforms and redistribution of resources. Swami Shahjahan's legacy lies in institutionalizing peasant resistance and advocating for agrarian justice in ways that continues to influence rural social movements and grassroots activism. His contribution underscores the role of social action as a professional method and the need to link economic justice with social empowerment, making him a key historical figure in the development of rural and agricultural social work in India.